Here we go. Now I'm recording. Chad Ross of Comet Control. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining me from Northern Ontario.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
I have a lot I want to talk about.
Sorry, I'm good to go.
Okay. So I mean, you said the baby's out for a walk. It might need to be a long walk. You and Andrew, and I assume Nicole probably had a role in this as well, built a studio.
Yeah, basically, I think around 4 years ago, we started building what was to be a practice space. Like Andrew and I were just kind of looking around Toronto for a practice space.
A box.
Yeah, just something we could, and we found like a really cheap spot in kind of in the Junction in Toronto, downtown Toronto, and we got another guy to chip in and help, and it basically became a studio called Palace Sound. And it wasn't really planned. I'm not actually involved in that studio anymore, but Andrew, I kind of parted ways since I moved up here and for other reasons. But Andrew is still Andrew and Chris Sands, who was in Comet Control, probably on the first two records. They kind of are still running Palace.
How far are you from Toronto now?
It takes me about an hour and a half to get to like the northern tip of Toronto. So we're far up north. We're in Muskoka, Ontario, pretty much, which is just kind of a really beautiful, where basically the north starts. If you head north of Toronto, then you start to see granite rock and big white pines. It's just pure north.
Yeah. It looks, I mean, I can see behind you, it looks lovely.
Yeah, that's our backyard.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Congratulations on having a backyard.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Was that pandemic family?
It was kind of like Nicole and I lived in Guelph, which is outside of Toronto too, for about a year, and we were starting to think about, because we obviously in like lots of big cities, you get priced out of the city, and for people that want to purchase a home, you can never afford to buy a place in a big city. So we went to a smaller city called Guelph in Ontario, and we were priced out of there as well. And then we were like, you know what, we should just go north. We both kind of grew up in the countryside, and Nicole actually grew up like 5 minutes from where we're living right now.
Oh, nice.
So and everything was just way cheaper up north, and that's where we wanted to be eventually anyway. So we have a big 2-acre property, and I'm actually we're renovating right now, and we're planning on putting a studio here as well. So we have like the space to do everything we want to do.
So I guess, okay. So having sort of stumbled into building a studio once, what lessons can you take from that experience toward building your next studio?
Well, yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I actually I'm a carpenter as well, and I run a small custom woodworking business, and
it's fortunate.
Yeah. And my partner actually runs an acoustic company, so we've been spending a lot of time in Toronto and Ontario actually building recording studios. I end up doing a lot of the wood finishes and the furniture. I like building cabinets for synthesizers and stuff like that. Yeah, it's kind of branching out. So, but that being said, at home when I build a studio here, I don't have too much to think about. I don't have to soundproof too much. We've got really nice windows that face out in the backyard, and I'm not even that concerned about actually soundproofing much.
It's awesome.
I'm gonna do the bare minimum.
Yeah. Nice. So if you're sort of out of the Toronto area, what does that do to the lineup of Comet Control?
Well, it's pretty weird now, because Andrew lives in Montreal.
Okay.
Which is about 6 hours from here.
Yeah.
And he still goes back and forth to Toronto to help manage the studio. Nicole and I live up here, but we had a kid. So that's why Andrew and I kind of made the last record, and it was, yeah, we made the last record by ourselves pretty much. We had a lineup change in the band. Like Chris left the band, Jay left the band, and Andrew and I have been collaborating for so long that it just seemed like it should have happened a long time ago, to tell you the truth, because Andrew's such a crazy good drummer. And all along it was just kind of, it was there in the background. We should have just done it anyway. So that being said, like that solves the recording problem, but like playing live now is kind of non-existent where we are.
I mean, it's kind of non-existent in a lot of places right now.
Well, it's strange because a lot of like big bands are able to tour at this point, but Comet Control being like a medium-sized, smaller band, like there's really no way for us to justify doing it right now,
Right.
which is a shame. And a lot of small bands have just been completely pulverized by this. A lot of big bands can go out with like go out on tour with like rules and regulations, but a band like us, we definitely can't do it. So right now that we live in different corners of Quebec and Ontario, like it's, you know, we're still not even jamming right now. It's crazy.
That is kind, I mean, it is kind of crazy to think, you know, you've got a record out and
yeah, we want to be doing it. We actually actually were sniffing around with our booking agent in Europe. Basically it was kind of like, well, our booking agent said like, well, I'm working with my bigger bands and kind of, you know, like talk to me later. Which is not a big deal. You don't take that personally, but that's just kind of how it is right now, right? Like it's not accessible to smaller bands right now.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, plenty to focus on in the interim with putting together another studio and family and the woods.
Yeah. Busy.
Yeah. Did for Inside the Sun, when were those songs started?
Well, Andrew and I started working on that record in 2018, which is crazy. It was just him and I at the studio kind of hashing out ideas, and I think we had a few riffs probably from like maybe a year before that. So yeah, I think we got back from a European tour and just kind of like, oh, we don't have anything planned, so we may as well make use of our time and our studio space. It's obvious like we could just go there anytime we wanted, and just kind of, there's tons of stuff to play with, and you know, and Andrew usually playing drums and me playing guitar. Yeah, and yeah, Andrew's drumming is just insane. So it was like, it was pretty easy to for us being collaborators for so long, like it was just kind of easy. Everything kind of flowed together very easily.
Did having your own studio space with sort of all that stuff there to feel out and fill out the songs, did that not maybe allow for more experimentation or allow you to sort of dig in a different way than you had before?
Yeah, it definitely did, because it was way more comfortable there, right? And we could go there anytime we wanted, like at least just to work the songs out. We had everything in mind. So by the time it came to like tracking the songs, like we were very comfortable in the space. And you know, we worked with Steve Chawley again, like who we've done we did the last record with. So yeah, everything was just really easy. And Andrew and I work pretty quickly together anyway. We don't really overthink things. Both of us are on the same page about that. We don't tear things apart. Like when we write something, it's just it is what it is, and it, you know, and then we work on it, kind of all the little details after. Like a lot of the stuff, like the vocals and lots of little frills I would do at home, or Jay Lamac, like our new keyboard player, he would do at his spot. We kind of, you know, thanks to Pro Tools, we can kind of bounce around. And Marco, like our new drummer, our live drummer, could do all the percussion at home. So So we brought all that back together and kind of, that's like, and just kind of made sense of what everyone did on it.
So you're kind of thinking about, you know, one way or the other future collaboration there, right? If you've worked out how everybody's going to do it from their own space.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like Andrew and I are like very happy to get together and write, like figure it all out. And then that's where the fun part starts, right? Like doing all the overdubs and everything and taking it home. And I have a little Pro Tools set up at home. So like I would have tons of time just to work on little guitar things, or I did acoustic guitars at home too.
Mm-hmm.
And vocals. And so you have like plenty of time with Pro Tools to sit down and kind of get into all the little dark corners.
and yeah. And obviously a home studio space allows that to go that much further as well. So Andrew moving to drums. Tell me about starting the record with Keep On Spinning. It's fast, obviously, but it also kind of sets up the attitude of the album.
I know, that's funny. I read your review of the record actually, and you kind of nailed it, like with the kind of a mission statement. I think Andrew actually used those words, which is funny because it was kind of like I was opposing that, like starting the record with that, but Andrew was like, no, it's got to happen. Like we got to start with a longer, fast song. And I was like, oh, I'm not too sure. I wanted to start with like,
what was the hesitation?
Because I don't know. I always think that it's like maybe a shorter kind of punchier song would be good. But then I look back, like even in Quest for Fire, like we started records with really long songs as well too, and it's kind of seems to work. Just this time around, the song that we chose was a long song, and it was a little bit faster.
Yeah, I mean, well, Andrew, you read the review. I thought it worked. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. And Andrew will be is probably very pleased that you nailed it as well.
Tell me about writing The Afterlife.
Oh, that was Andrew just had this really repetitive riff.
Mm-hmm.
Really kind of just awesome. And he had the guitar lead all worked out. And then the lyrics we kind of played that song actually like a few times live. I think we had that song in 2018. We played it at this festival in Ontario, but I kind of didn't really have the lyrics worked out, so I would just kind of make things up in my head, improvise. But that kind of came, the lyrics kind of just turned into like, there's this kind of special place where we go camping, my wife and I, up in northern Ontario. It's called Killarney. Okay. And I was just, that's really, that song's just kind of about, it's called The Afterlife, but it's kind of, it was, at one point it was called The Greatest Day or The Best Day of Your Life.
Okay.
So it was kind of just like reflecting on those moments in life when, you know, those special moments where you're just kind of happy to be alive. And that's one of my favorite places in Ontario, Killarney. For those of you who don't know out there, it's like in northern Ontario, and there's these beautiful like quartzite white rocks and granite cliffs, and it's a provincial park, so you can kind of canoe into it. And if anyone knows about like the Group of Seven, they're like a famous Canadian painter troupe.
Okay.
It's like you're living in like a Group of Seven painting there. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So that song was just kind of a reflection on that, and the time that I've spent there. Just kind of, you know, you can canoe off into like these little areas and have little private beautiful paradise, and you can like bring some beer and just kind of, and you know, those moments are just like the most magical. I didn't get to go there this summer. My wife and I usually go every year, but since we have a little daughter now, we're kind of like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do much backwoods camping or anything. Take her in the canoe. Maybe next year when she's like 2, we'll take her there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, seems so easy now wait, I mean, she's, you said she's 17 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So walking, right?
Oh, walking, talking, just
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, yeah. I mean, she's not going to get less mobile
no.
or easier
I know.
to contain.
Disadvantage, I know.
Yeah. You got,
We live across the road from like a river here too, so we take her to the river and we splash in the water, and she's getting good.
that's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I hope that answers your question. That's kind of like a
No, it does. And you know, I liked the, what stuck out to me was the play on after life, right?
Yeah,
Is sort of that separate, you know, finding that peaceful moment kind of away from life, which is the chaos. So I, you know, that there's a specific place makes a lot of sense to me. You know, it's at the end of the day, after we put our son to bed, my wife and I usually you know, just sit down and sort of veg out and like watch an episode of Star Trek, and that's our afterlife, right?
Clear your mind and kind of
yeah, exactly. It's that's our time like that. So yeah, exactly. You need that.
Yeah.
You are more than a decade out from the last Quest for Fire album. How do you feel about what that band accomplished and about what you and Andrew have kind of built on it with Comet Control?
I don't know. I feel really proud about those Quest for Fire records. Like I've revisited them like from time to time, and like maybe just like listen to like one song here or there, just like, oh yeah, that was a pretty special time in our lives, especially, and it was kind of short-lived as well. And Mike, Josh, and Andrew and I are still like best of friends. Like we all live on different corners of Canada now. Like Josh lives in Vancouver, Mike's in Hamilton, I'm up here, and Andrew's in Montreal. So it's kind of hard for us to all get together and spend time together. But yeah, like I really, yeah, those records are a perfect foundation for what Comet Control kind of became.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew and I kind of had a lot of ideas about starting Comet Control. We kind of wanted it to be more song based, you know, like kind of like more hooks, kind of just we wanted to be a little bit more focused with it, whereas Quest for Fire was really essentially built on a lot of like 5-hour jams, and us like kind of like those magic moments where you're like, where that's the kind of the difference. Like Quest for Fire would jam literally for like 5 hours when we got together and totally lose ourselves. But whereas Comet Control is kind of like more kind of focused art, like Andrew and I come together and we want to kind of make something a little bit more packaged, right? Like more hooks, and more, whereas Quest for Fire was really a real actually exploration of that kind of music, really. Like it was everything. We you know, we misbehaved a lot, and we definitely did at band practices. There was definitely a lot going on in our brains, and
well said.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was like a beautiful, like sometimes like with Quest for Fire, it was like those moments of playing, like even just jamming, were some of the most magical musical moments of my life. And we weren't even playing in front of an audience. We were just together, like with the musicianship, and you know, like when a band really clicks as a band, and every piece like fits perfectly. That was Quest for Fire. Whereas with Comet Control, we kind of have this, it's Andrew and I, and to a certain point Nicole, right? But we kind of have a revolving cast of characters at this point, with like people that we play with live, and it's not the same. It's not like when we get together to jam, we jam the songs. Whereas with Quest for Fire, we would start, like someone would just start playing something and we would play it for 20 minutes, you know, until something came out of it. It's a pretty magical band, and I kind of miss it, but I don't know if we could actually if we ever got back into a room together, I'm not quite certain that we would find that magic again. I would hope that we could.
Mhm. Well, I mean, just for the passage of years and sort of where your
Yeah,
lives have
exactly.
gone.
Yeah, exactly. Like just for me personally, like getting a lot more sober in my later years. Like I still drink a bit of beer, light beer, and I'm a daily weed smoker, but that's kind of like where I'm at in my
Got it.
life. But like life changes, right? Like it's like when you look back like 10 years, I was a younger man, and but I really think that like we're such close friends that if we ever did decide to jam again, it would just be probably right back to where we were, maybe with less substances.
Right, right, right. More lucid, maybe.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
In one way at least. Um, it's interesting, to think of that as kind of a moment in your life too. Um, I was
Yeah.
fortunate enough to see Quest for Fire open for Monster Magnet in
Oh,
Brooklyn.
awesome.
Um,
That was a weird lineup though, actually.
it was, it was. Uh,
Is that the only time you saw Best for Fire?
Actually, I saw Quest for Fire through the door at the Bat Cave at Roadburn
Okay.
as well. I didn't actually get in the room, but I watched you guys through the door.
Well, that was like the full experience, probably. I remember that being a pretty fun night.
It was quite good. And it was nice actually to have seen Comet Control in 2018 as the follow-up
Yeah.
to that. But
The Monster Magnet one was like a little bit silly because I was playing bass. Like our bass player Josh couldn't make it, so,
mhm.
so that definitely wasn't the full experience for sure. But still good. It was
Man, you take what you could get, right?
fun.
So, but I Lights from Paradise especially came out since it came out in 2010. My wife and I, she was working on her PhD dissertation. I was working on a fiction thesis
Yeah.
for a master's in writing, and we rented a cabin in Vermont, like off the beaten path, out in the woods, and we sort of escaped for a month. And I always associate Lights from Paradise with that moment,
Oh, great.
right? That like complete put everything else aside and just sort of dig into the creative and live that.
Oh,
I think of, we've been fortunate enough to go back up once for a weekend since, but it was like, that idyllic time is my primary association with that record. Driving through the backwoods Appalachian hills of Vermont is my.
That's definitely a perfect record. I think like Quest for Fire too is like we're definitely on the less like doomy spectrum of that type of music as well. And it's kind of there, that was the good thing about Quest for Fire is we had like, we had riffs, but we also had acoustic guitars and different things to we like our interests were in a lot of different places, and it definitely comes through in that record.
Are you? I mean, I assume are you just always writing?
Yeah.
So where do you see Comet Control going?
I see Andrew and I always collaborating, hopefully, because like despite what happens with the world of touring right now, like Andrew and I work very well together. We're pretty different people for sure, but for some reason we definitely click together, and I would love to collaborate with Andrew for as long as we can. In terms of other stuff, I've got a new record finished, which is like a new solo record, which is completely done and mastered.
Nordic Nomadic?
I'm just going under C. Ross for this.
Okay.
And it's done. And I'm talking to a label right now about putting it out in the spring.
Can I hear
Yeah, yeah, I could.
it? Don't tell anybody. Can I have? Can I?
Yeah. It's actually turned out amazing. Actually did it with Josh Wells from Black Mountain and Lightning Dust. He
What?
produced it and played on it, and Isaiah from Earthless plays a bit on it
Oh, I've heard of him.
too.
Facebook tells me it's his birthday today, actually.
Oh, happy birthday, Isaiah!
Happy birthday, Isaiah. Yeah, there you go.
Pretty stoked on this one, and I have another bud from Toronto named Aaron Goldstein plays a pedal steel on it. So it's kind of like it's a pretty psyche kind of full on folk rock record.
Apologies if you can hear the garbage truck coming down my street right now.
Yeah. I think one just passed my neighborhood too.
That time of day, the morning.
Yeah. So there's that, and I'm always working on, like, no matter how busy I am, I'm still working on things. Like during this whole pandemic, I've been when my daughter was a little bit smaller, just playing acoustic guitar for her, like, all the time. And now I still play with her now too. She's a little bit more, she wants to smash the strings a little bit more. So it's kind of harder to find those moments. Like usually when she goes to sleep, I can come right where I'm sitting right now and come out here with a light beer and play acoustic guitar. But I'm constantly working on. I'm always thinking about like the next project for sure. Like no matter how busy I am, it's just like a part of my life. And I like the recording process even more than I like touring. Like at this point in my life, I'm kind of happy actually that we're taking a little bit of a break from touring, and I'm happy. I love the process of the creative process of writing and recording. That's my main focus.
I think that's where, especially if you're sort of doing it on your own, I think that's where that exploration that you were talking about before happens, right? Yeah. I mean, that's exactly how that manifests.
Yeah, and then that's exactly how I look at it, because I'm like when I was saying before about Quest for Fire kind of being an exercise and kind of like spirituality. Mm-hmm. That's how no one else in the band would think that except for me probably, but like when we got together to jam, those magical moments. But then when I play alone and play the acoustic guitar, that's kind of like, it's kind of just a meditative experience for me a lot of the time.
No, I mean, physically you're engaging that different part of your brain. That's absolutely what it is. Yeah, totally. It's I think spiritualism is an apt analogy for that. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna let you go in a minute, but please really send me that record. I won't tell anybody. I won't tell anybody, but you're thinking spring for that.
Spring, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would let you. I'll tell you the label, and when I'll shoot you an email.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll stop the recording in a minute, but congratulations on the Comet Control record. I always sort of look at a band's third album as like, well, the first record, feeling things out, trying something new, this and that. Second record builds on the first, and I always think of a band's third album as sort of that arrival at what the first record was going for. And especially with Inside the Sun, you have that fast start and then it goes out at the end, and you go all the way out, right? And it seems to me that sort of takes that idea of more song-based writing and puts it together around something really kind of exploratory, especially as that record goes forward.
Yeah, it makes the record kind of a whole, right? Like it makes it one kind of functioning piece of work. And I definitely have, we got to give Andrew props for that, because he definitely had the vision of the sequencing. And a lot of the record, like Andrew really, there's a lot of Andrew on this record, which is amazing. He's such a talented dude. Just with him like shifting to the drums, just kind of I think blew everything wide open.
I mean,
Finally, after all these records, like it was just sitting there right in front of us the whole time, like us just, hey, why don't we just you and I do it and figure it out.
so at what point in making the record were you like, yeah, this is it?
I don't probably when I heard like the beds, like when I got home and I was like kind of just kind of rearranging stuff on Pro Tools, and just so I could, just doing like a really rough mix so that I could do vocals. I was like, oh wow, this is pretty awesome. Like, because sometimes when you're tracking, you don't really have too much time to think about it, and especially at the speed that we work at. Like usually, like I said before, Andrew and we don't pick things apart at all. Like we finish something and then we move on to the next thing. Like,
Right.
So when we did the beds and then I finally got them home, I think there was probably probably a bunch of months between the tracking the beds and doing the vocals. There was like a big time in between, right, where I actually started doing it. And yeah, so when you listen back to what you did, you because it's not fresh in your head anymore, it's yeah, it was pretty kind of jarring in a good way. Like it was like, oh wow, Andrew just it's all to me it was like definitely a lot of the drumming, and yeah.
So if you're, I mean, would you put together songs, or now being sort of separate and working, on your own, would you put together songs around like backbeats he's sending you, or drum parts, or?
We've never really worked that way. I think we have to, like him and I usually have to be in the same room.
Okay.
I don't like that process. I know a lot of bands that do that. Like,
I mean, especially now. Right?
Yeah. But I think when it comes time, excuse me, like we definitely will be in the same room together trying to work out stuff again. Right now, just because we're finished a record, we'll probably take like another
Oh, rush. Yeah, no, take your time. No.
Yeah, I'm just shifting gears to doing some acoustic stuff as well. And then I like I said, I'm looking forward to the next project.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I'm gonna stop the recording, but thank you again for taking the time, Chad, to talk.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Let me hang out 1 second. Here we go.